Paper Artist is the brand name that Hot Off the Press is using for its cutting dies and embossing folders. And I'm happy to say 2 of the new embossing folders are available right now.
They're 2 beautiful new folders. One is a butterfly frame and the other is Snowflake, so you'll be ready for Christmas.
That's right. And if you think you knew everything about embossing folders, I invite you to stay tuned because we've got some pretty wonderful projects. Come play with us. Well, here they are, and you might notice they're silk screened on one side, and we just thought that that's so helpful. You can actually see what the designs look like.
You can see what they look like, and you'll know which side is going to be embossed, too. That's what I like about it.
And I guess we should turn this one this way, shouldn't we? And because it's hot off the press, you're going to get an idea on the back, but we have those, so we're going to show them to you. Okay, so those 2, and a little bit later we're going to show you a diffuser, so more to come. Okay, we're going to start with butterflies, and this is our first project. It's using the Gypsy Jewels papers, and then this has simply been embossed with white cardstock.
Right, so there's the embossing folder. I put the white cardstock in, run it through my machine, and then you've got this beautiful embossed image that you're going to be able to see really well once I use the cream chalks on it.
Ah, so that's what was used.
Right, metallic cream chalks, and you pull out your little stylus here and grab one of those little pom-poms. Just get some of the cream chalk on there, like so.
And I think with all of the coloring of the embossing folders, a light touch is what you need to know.
Sure. Now, you can just start going all over the image like that. And
let's get in closer just to really see what's going on.
So you want to get the embossed image, but you also want to get the debossed area underneath.
Okay, so you don't have to stay just on top. You can, you can let that boop down.
Right, because wherever you put it on top, it just, the more pressure makes it darker on top, and then it just fills in a lighter image underneath.
Okay, well that looks easy to do.
Yeah, very simple.
Okay, here is the end result, and you can see that a couple of different colors were used, and then some, looks like the pink jewel dazzles were added, just little dots around. And then the happy birthday greeting dazzles.
And that was used on the Gypsy Jewels paper pack. Right. I see those, that striped ombre look.
And this particular card doesn't have an inside, so we'll just move on. So step 1 is cream chalking.
Look. You can cut around the outside of it for a nice little border.
Good point. Okay, now here is another look that is also easy to achieve. Now, this is done on printed paper and then sanded, right?
And then sanded. So from the Painted Flowers paper pack, that pink was put in the embosser, and there it was embossed. You've got a sanding block or sandpaper, and off you go. I'm only turning it because it's easier to hold it this way, but it doesn't take very much, and you can start to see that image just pop.
And that's just really such a simple thing to do. Now, when we first tried this on pattern paper, our worry was that the paper would be too soft to easily do the sanding, but it's fine.
No problem, and you can see it really well. It doesn't take much effort to get that, and because it's white on the backside or on the core, even if it's double-sided paper, you're going to get that white to show through.
Right. Now, the other thing that you can do with cardstock is if you have cardstock like our 8x8 cardstocks, these have a white core, which means, let me just open one up. Would have been nice if I would have opened this before.
Here, it's like,
do you have it?
This.
Okay.
Yeah. This is from that very same paper pack. And so the white core is, if it's, this happens to be white on the back side, but there's also double-sided, a color on this side, color on this side, and then that white is in between the 2 layers. So when you emboss it and then sand it, you're going to see that. You're going to see that on one of the cards later.
So that's just another way to get a very similar look. It looks just really, really nice. Now, are you ready for specialty paper? Because that, I'm going to scoot away some of that sanding. What is really nice to know is that specialty papers can also be used on the embossing folders, and I think this is just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
And it's really simple to achieve, too. It's an easy look. We started out with the metallic gold paper.
Flat. Just like that.
I actually want to show you something about this. When you emboss on this kind of paper in particular, so it might be some of the other specialty papers as well. What I did is I put it in the embosser, the embossing folder like that, and I put a piece of cardstock behind it.
You did.
And then I embossed it.
Now that's sandwiched in the folder.
Sandwiched in the folder, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Here's the finished look. It looks real nice. But if you, and this is with the cardstock behind it. If you don't use cardstock behind this specialty paper in particular, it tends to crack.
It's soft.
Right.
Okay.
It cracks that upper layer. You can see the cracks in there, and it doesn't look fantastic.
I didn't know that.
You can still use this and paint in there and cover that up, but it gives a much cleaner look if you have that piece of cardstock inside the folder with it.
Good to know.
So once you have that,
because that is, I mean, it's smooth, it's deeply embossed, works well.
It works perfectly that way. Then I've got my Stays On Timber Brown, and I've got a brayer. You can do this without, you can use it straight from the ink pad if you like, but I feel like there's more control with the brayer.
When you do it with the ink pad, the thing to remember, what you want to do is you want to have the ink going on smoothly, and with the brayer, it's kind of the same size as the embossed piece, so it's a little easier to control it and not to get it to tip.
Right. I find that if I use the ink pad, it tends to go in places, it's just a little more in places that I don't want it to go.
Yeah, and I see just even right there, looks like you, it's not very inked, but even going right in there. If you didn't want that, it's harder to control with the ink pad.
So we're going to use the brayer.
Okay.
We're going to get it as inked up as I can here.
Who uses these ink pads when we're not on camera?
I use them all the time, and if I was sitting there at my station, I would re-ink it. Okay, so I'm getting as much ink on that brayer as I can, and then I'm not going to worry about getting on the edge because I'm going to cut around the edge afterwards. And then you just start, and I try to just focus it on the areas where I want the ink.
And what is so interesting is that it is a light touch. I mean, even with the brayer.
Right. If you want it a little darker, let it dry for a minute and then just hit it again.
Oh, okay. Well, let me bring in the finished one. And you're using brown.
I'm using timber brown.
Yeah, very often, we use black, but the brown is really nice. Now, the other thing that you did on this is you stamped, and then you used the gold dazzles.
Jewel border dazzles.
Right. And what amazed me about that is I thought, when I first saw this card, I thought it was embossed right there. And I thought, how did you get embossing in the middle of the area? But because the gold is the gold, it just worked beautifully. So it just did, it just coordinated so nicely. Then you use some on the edges.
And this is from the Rosemary and Thyme paper pack?
Right.
No, Red Velvet. It's from the Red Velvet paper pack, so you've got a little of that notation. I love the
I shouldn't have agreed with you, huh? And a couple of layers there of matting, and on the inside, this I also love. So let's talk about this.
What I did on that one is when I put it into the machine, here, I can actually grab the machine and show you just very quickly.
Okay.
When I put it in the machine, I'm going to get this ready, I only embossed it. I only put it into the machine for the very front part.
Now we're
of
using
that card.
the Big Shot, but this
should
work on any.
It will work on any machine. I mean, there should be
Now,
no
do you want
problem.
to put the cardstock under it?
Well, this time I'm just going to show. Normally I would put the cardstock so it won't crack, but I'm just going to show you that I would lay this down, and I would put this end in the machine first because I only wanted that one end, and then I would just go a little ways in about so.
Okay.
And then back out.
Okay.
And that way you can get just the end.
You know, I have to say though, I really wouldn't have thought of taking this rectangle and making a label out of it, or this little kind of tag that you have, and then cutting out the embossed butterfly from the other area.
Right.
And doing the same inking, the same stamping, the jewel dazzles is just a really nice extra way to do it. And I love the finish with
cutting
the bow.
out the extra butterfly. It's fun to cut those out. That's
foam taped.
And that's just foam taped on there.
Just lovely. Absolutely lovely. So 3 new things. Okay, are you sitting down? Are you ready for this? Here is a masterpiece now. Let's get in close because this is really tone on tone. And I just want to show you all of the elements that Gail did with this scrapbook page. So let me get this up.
We started on the Stolen Moments paper pack. That's one of our newer paper packs. I love the teals and the soft colors that come with it.
So this is the corner of it on white cardstock.
Right.
And then you've done brown.
I've done chalk inks.
Chalk inks.
And I have several different colors of chalk inks. And this one was in fawn, this one is butter, and this one is mint. And then if you move up to this piece, which I used the entire...
Okay, look at this. How neat is that? Okay, back up a little bit, John. Okay.
So on this piece, I used the entire
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Do you hear me? It's beautiful.
Yes,
okay.
Thank you. I used all 3 of the chalk inks. So I used some green and fawn and butter all mixed in, and then I divided out the colors in just these 3 little cut corners down at the bottom.
And then the tag has also been done with the embossing folder.
Right.
And
I kind of want to show you a little bit how I did that, but I'd like to show you first how I did the inks on that one.
Okay. So I should scoot this over now. Is that what you're telling me? Okay.
So I've got the cardstock here already embossed, and I've got the 3 inks, fawn, butter, and mint. And I used the stylus with the foam applicators on the end.
Okay.
And then this is just super simple. I started on the butterfly first, ink that up.
Okay, now you're doing the one that's mixed colors?
The one that's mixed colors. Well, if you want to do just one color, you do overall over one whole area with one
that
color.
up a little bit.
This is a real light color. You might not be able to see it too much, but started on the butterfly.
But this is the process you used for each of them, all 5 that you used on this scrapbook page.
Right.
Okay.
I started with one color and then added another color. Here I have fawn.
Thank you, John. He adjusted the lights so we could see this a little better.
And then I was able to just add a little bit of detail.
So you really can, with that stylus, control where you're doing the inking.
Yes, that's what I like about it. There's several different applicators that we use for different things. This one is great for details, so I like this one in particular for that reason. And then you can switch to another color pretty
Like
quickly.
So.
And get some of the, for instance, some of the vines.
Oh, nice.
Some of the outside details here. So that's really how I did every one that you see.
Okay, but going back, okay, good. Oh, nice. Nice, nice, nice. So going back to the page and just realizing that this is one embossing folder with white cardstock, and I love this idea of snipping around that butterfly and tucking your matted photo. I mean, that's really brilliant.
And it's just I'm looking at that embossing folder and I started thinking, how can I put a folder in there? And that was just a real simple way of doing it.
It is, and it's something that's going to work with a lot of different kind of framed images.
I did say I was going to talk a little bit about this tag.
You're going to do that now?
Yeah, just
Okay.
Here's the tag. And the important part about this is that I computer journaled on there, and I computer journaled on it before I embossed it.
Makes sense.
And so the way I did that was this. First, I embossed an image on cardstock, and then I knew that this was going to sit on my tag just like so, and I wanted to know where that blank area was on the tag. So I took that embossed area, cut out, and I embossed cardstock, and I cut out in that area. I set it on top of my tag, just right down there in the corner.
So you could figure out your journaling.
And then I trace that area. Just set it on there.
Okay.
Just with a pencil, and then you can erase it later. So there's my area, and I know that I'm going to journal right in that area. And that's easy to do on a computer or by hand. And then I embossed it to get that
So
up.
then just one more step. So then you would do your computer journaling. So you would print this out on a piece of paper.
Right.
And then you would hold that printed paper behind your tag, make sure it's aligned in this area, then tape or lightly glue this to that printed sheet,
Correct.
run it back through the computer, and voila, it's going to print in the same area.
And there you have your journaling, and then you set that in your embossing folder right down in that corner, just like that other card was, and you'll have, you can see that that image is right in there where it's going to be embossed.
Okay, so a lot's going on this. Now, again, you're using the gold border dazzles, doing a nice job of underlining key elements.
And there's some stamping going on.
Yes.
And this is with one of our newer stamp sets, the Serendipity Flowers stamp set.
Right, and there's that. So that's where you're getting the love and the laugh and the live.
And the little butterflies underneath it, that sort of off stamp.
Okay, and that's with the Serendipity flowers, so that's a beautiful set. And this also has the gumdrop, the green gumdrop buttons. But all of this will be in the instructions in the gallery too, and we'll tell you about how you can get those tags. So, okay. Lots of things for butterflies. It's time for equal time for snowflakes, don't you think?
Snowflake time.
Now, snowflake time, but we're going to use something different. Now, this is from our friend Tim Holtz, and these are called embossing diffusers. So they're really a very chunky plastic. It's, it's a good almost that's not a quarter, about 1/8 of an inch thick. And it has 3 of these shapes, and then it has the shapes that go inside of them.
So each shape that you look at, the outer shape is what's going to be remain your embossed area, and the cutout shape is going to be the area that won't get embossed.
Well, it sort of depends on how you use them, doesn't it?
If you use the large shape.
Right.
That's the effect.
So for this card, what was done is that the area that you want to remain flat is the piece that you're going to put on your embossing folder. So this is going to go right into your embossing folder.
Actually, the opposite.
Is it?
Yeah, it's surprising, but
You mean I was wrong?
that is the opposite of what's going to
Gail.
happen. It's funny. I'm going to show you.
Okay, you show me, because that's not what I thought.
Okay.
Excuse us while we, obviously we don't rehearse these things.
This is just, you had to do it to find out what happens. It's
Okay.
just kind of surprising. So I've got the cardstock here with color side up towards what I want to be embossed.
Okay.
And
now which piece do you want?
I'm going to close that up.
Okay.
Set it on my cutting platform. Then I'm going to take the one with because I want this area to not get embossed, that open area is going to fit right on top.
Really?
Yep. It's because
It still doesn't make sense to me, but okay.
because the machine is going to apply pressure around here and emboss, and there will be no pressure in the center, so it will not emboss.
Okay, well then that helps.
Okay. Now, let's see if I can, I don't think I need the bottom.
Yeah,
one.
I bet you
I
don't.
think I just recalled it. Okay, for this machine, no bottom cutting, just
And then the diffuser.
and then the diffuser.
And you want to
this.
line it up.
And it's lined up as much as on this, it's okay to tape it if you feel like it's going to move. I'm going to sort of have to get on top of it to do it. It's kind of...
So washi tape or stencil tape would do really well. That is so funny that in my head I had it backwards.
All right, I pull this out.
Move it.
And voila.
Okay, so do what Gail says, not what I did.
Now, if we had put this in the center,
Right.
then that area would have been embossed and everything else would not have been embossed.
So funny. Now, this is actually a good example of, because this has a white core, you can see that some of the white is showing, and then I bet you're going to sand it.
Just like we were talking about that particular kind of cardstock, it has that white core, and so very simple.
Yeah, so you can't do this. If your cardstock is the same color on both sides, this technique will not work. So you need to have the kind that is printed, so which is what we've done with our cardstock. But here is the same card, and it's a really wonderful technique. And it's nice with the diffusers because you have a couple of different ways that you can do it.
You can use it, and then you've got that area in the middle that you can stamp on or put dazzles on. Lots of fun things.
And this is some of our foiled paper. It looks like this, not the holographic, but the foiled. So, and it's a 12 by 12 sheet. And then, let's see, I've got another card that is using that top oval.
Right here.
Right. So,
so I was able to stamp and emboss right there.
right. Now this is on, okay. So this is on the Silver Snowflakes holographic. Can you see? And then it's backed by the blue Snowflakes holographic. So tell us about this. What's happened?
So there's that area. Here is the diffuser. So this is actually started out as one piece. You can see in two pieces.
Sure.
It was one piece. It was placed in the embossing folder, and then this was placed on top of the whole setup. And so you have this one area that did not get embossed, and so I was able to stamp and emboss with Versamark and fine embossing powder.
Now your snowflakes, what were they, inked?
They were inked with Versamark, and then I dusted them with embossing powder, and I have a setup for that. It was kind of for another card, but I can show it on this if you prefer.
Well, let's wait for the other card. Okay.
All right.
So you've got that highlighting, and then this has got looks like the teal jewel dazzles in
Jewel
there.
dazzles, and I love the pave crystal right there.
Very pretty. Nice to have that sheer ribbon on there too. Add a little dimension. Wow, a lot going on. And on the inside, you used that oval shape.
Just as a template, I used the diffuser to trace and cut out that oval shape.
How nice.
The label.
And if you have someone wiggling it, you'll get this effect too.
What's really cool is if you print these on a printer and just see the very interesting effect you get from the photocopy.
Okay, so this is using the diffusers, so that's all we're going to do on diffusers. Here is one of the cards that was in our very first personal shopper for the embossing folders, and it's been first covered with the black suede. And what I like about the suede is that it's such a saturated color that it offsets the other images just beautifully. And then we've got two different things going on. So you're getting ready to show us something.
Right, we've got, so back here is on black cardstock. It was embossed, and then I'm going to show you the technique for embossing on top of that, heat embossing.
Okay.
And on the red fireworks also the same technique was done. So I want
to say something about the red fireworks. I would not have thought of doing that, but I kind of love the idea of fire and ice, the fireworks and these icy snowflakes.
Well, you sort of can't tell that it's fireworks.
Yeah.
It's just sort of a pow. And we use that holographic paper for all sorts of things.
Yes, amazingly. Okay, so what do you have?
So I have the embossed piece of red fireworks paper.
Okay, I have a question. Now you said on the gold paper, which is a thinner paper that you put the cardstock under it. What did you do with this?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I
Okay.
did it just this way. Actually, if you look really close, you can sort of see a little bit in areas. It wouldn't hurt to put the cardstock behind it.
Okay, but you don't.
But I didn't feel that
to.
it was necessary. It'll pretty well get covered up in the process that you do anyway.
Okay.
I've got craft paper.
Craft sheet.
Sheet here. And we probably have to back out a little bit. I've got Versamark. And I've got another brayer. And before I do anything, I don't do any heat embossing on the holographic papers without using the perfect pouch. It just puts a little bit of powder on there and makes it so that your Versamark and embossing powders go where you want them to go.
Okay, and I think often I forget to mention it, but I know that all of you really use that.
It's very important, especially for the holographic paper, because they're a little bit staticky. And the dust will cling to the areas that don't have Versamark on it.
Okay.
So I ink up the brayer with Versamark, and this is a good pad, so that's working well. I run it across here, and I'm not going to worry if it a little bit gets in between. This is kind of an artistic process a little bit.
But the brayer is really allowing it to stay on top, which is what you want.
And then I get out.
And this is
my
white?
White superfine embossing powder.
And I should have given you a piece of paper under there. I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't even think of it. That's all right.
We will shortly.
It's on the cross sheet. So wiggle it around a little bit so it gets everywhere.
Tap that off.
And you can already see pretty well what it's going to look like. And I'll get the heat gun.
I'll slide this away for you.
Now, what we discovered on the holographic papers is that you can emboss on them quite well, and you don't have to worry too much about it damaging the paper. I think it's because it's really a foil finish, not a plastic finish.
Right.
I'm wondering, I can't quite see if it's taking. Does it look like it's done?
I think it is.
Okay. I'll just do this half of it. But I did do one other extra step. You don't have to, but I did.
What did you do?
Which is I inked it again with the Versamark, and then I applied a layer of the kaleidoscope. It's sort of a see-through, sparkly embossing powder, and then I did it again, so it makes it kind of sparkly.
Okay, so that you did that on this piece?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and then on the black, you did the same thing with the white embossing powder?
Exact same thing.
Okay, just a stunning look. And the warm wishes comes from the little, I believe, the snowflake.
It's a small little bird stamp, the small bird stamp.
Okay, I've lost it somewhere. Here it is.
There we are.
There we go, the little snowbird. Okay, and on the inside, reversing that process. So we've got a large black, a small red. On the inside, we've got a large red and a small black. So just beautiful.
And this was computer journaling on the inside, so you can add any little message that you want.
Be absolutely gorgeous.
The suede does a lot. I use suede in so many cards.
Okay, now a little more holographic going on here. And this has been done on white cardstock. We'll get in closer just so that you can see. And you can see the light blue, just a touch of blue along the top edges.
And this was simply run through the embossing machine on white cardstock like this. And then you can just use smooch ink. This one was Pool. And just go over the tops of those snowflakes, just really simply. Just sort of get it right where you want it. I think if you sort of lay it on its edge and sort of run it across, it would be an easy, not too
Okay, so smooch, you could use chalks, you could use an ink pad. All of those just make the difference. Okay, last card, and this is actually the one that's on the back of the package. And so this is different in that it's got 2 layers of the embossing folder that's been used on 2 papers, but then separate snowflakes cut out. So while we saw the butterfly being cut out, it might, you may not think about it with something that has an overall pattern like this, but there are full images that you can use.
Cut out for extra embellishments.
So you're going to show us something on this?
I am, but I'm going to start by saying that this was pattern paper back here. So I think this was warm flannel, paper pack. So that's a pattern winter flannel that was sanded in the way we've shown you.
Okay.
And then both of these are cardstocks, and it's an example of inking on the embossed and the debossed side.
Okay.
So I've got this cream cardstock that has been embossed.
And you've got the embossed side up.
Right now I've got the embossed side up. So if I take this is a Red Barn fluid chalk ink pad, and just start going across the tops of those.
Wow.
And I know that I'm going to cut them out, so even if it gets in between, it's not going to affect much. So there's my snowflakes that I can cut out individually. Now, if I turn it over, I have the debossed side, and if I go over that side,
then you're going to have the white snowflakes.
then I'm going to have
or
the white
cream in this case.
Right, correct. So I can still cut them out, or I can use them for a background, which is what was done in the back on the blue.
Right.
So use both sides of those embossing folders.
You know, I think it'd be really easy to get excited about the emboss side, the part that's raised, and sort of forget about the other side, the debossed side. But as you said, this area is the debossed. We talked about cardstock needing a white core to have the sanding, but also you can use any of the pattern papers
because they have that white core.
Exactly, because they're printed on top, and then to cut out the images. So you've got a ton of ideas, and we've only looked at 2 embossing folders.
Sure. So have fun.
Yes.